Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Corporate Escapists TV show. I'm your host and producer, Christine Innes. Oh my goodness, I can't even say my name right today. And I'm a transition and lifestyle coach. And I am so excited to have the wonderful Angela here with me today. And we're going to be talking about her journey of leaving the corporate world and, you know, the twists and turns that it definitely has taken for her to be able to fulfill her soul and her passion as well. So welcome, Angela, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Christine.
So do
it's
you want
really
Oh, no, sorry, I cut you off.
I was just about to say it's an absolute pleasure to be on today.
Oh, well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. And do you want to start by just telling everybody, you know, a little bit about yourself and, you know, a little bit about the journey that you took? Because I really love it. When we spoke about a week or so ago, I really love how, you know, it's sort of come sort of in full circle, but, you know, really allowing the different elements, you know, of the mind, body and soul to sort of be incorporated now into your life.
Yeah. So I started out my career in the accounting world. So I was a chartered accountant for around 17 years. In that time, I knew something wasn't right. Like the corporate world for me felt soul destroying. And I did used to go off traveling for years here and there. So I did have a few breaks in that time. And I used to always find myself saying to people along the way that I really wanted to be a Pilates instructor. I hated telling people that I was an accountant. And then it was about 10 years after that kind of initial thinking, oh, I'd really like to teach Pilates, that I finally got around to doing the Pilates teacher training and absolutely loved it. And so I started teaching Pilates on the side, like at nights and on weekends and early mornings. And then was really, really loving it. And a project I was working on at the time came to its natural end. And so I was at the point where I was looking for a new job. And so I decided to give part-time accounting a go. So I worked a part-time role 3 days a week and then picked up some more Pilates teaching classes on those 2 days off. And again, was really loving it. And so after that maternity contract that I had ended, I decided to go full-time Pilates. So I transitioned out of it slowly. So I've spent the last probably 5 years or so teaching Pilates, and I've really loved it and still really, really love it. But in this past year, I've kind of come back to the accounting. It still completely blows my mind that I'm doing that, because when I left, I never thought I would go back. I kind of closed the doors on that forever. But I've actually found that I really love the numbers side of things. It was just really the corporate world that I wasn't suited to. And so I've actually started up a business doing accounting and tax work, but specifically for Pilates and yoga instructors and conscious entrepreneurs. So kind of marrying my two worlds. And I'm really loving it. And I've managed to kind of link what I'm doing with my core value of bringing more love and light into the world. And I think I just have clients kind of naturally flocking to me. I've hit on a real niche in the market. And I think because I'm loving it, people are naturally kind of attracted to that. So it's been going really well.
Yeah, I love what you've done is that, you know, we can go in this amazing sort of full circle, but allowing the growth and the lessons that we've learned throughout the time to sort of, you know, still be incorporated into it. And then, you know, following that heart and passion, like you love the numbers, you love, you know, being the accountant, but you also love, you know, the soulfulness of, you know, the business of working with those type of, you know, business owners and entrepreneurs that, you know, understand the mind body soul sort of connection as well and want to be able to have a thriving business, which I think sometimes people don't get. They either get that it's just numbers, or they don't understand the sort of the spirituality sort of side of things to be able to marry the two of it. I absolutely really love what you're doing, because I think, you know, when you have somebody who also practices Pilates but understands the numbers, you can then really help sort of, follow people, down the right pathway and really give them that right sort of guidance as well.
Yeah. So I remember when I was in that transition period and I was really trying to get a hold on what my life purpose was, what my soul's purpose was. And I knew Pilates wasn't it, but it was something I was loving at the time. So it was a natural first step away from corporate. And I think having the space where I was really loving what I was doing day to day just gave, I guess, my soul's purpose kind of naturally came to me over time. So I did kind of start doing some online businesses around the Pilates space, which never really took off or made money really. And so, yeah, kind of went through personal transformation around relationships and stuff. And kind of through that really deep healing period, I think I just woke up in the middle of the night and had this idea for Heal.Thy Money Co, like the name of it and everything kind of came to me. So yeah, I think it was in that kind of space away from corporate, kind of the heaviness that puts on you, that kind of everything became a lot clearer to me.
Yeah, the structure, did you find that the structure and the constant, I felt like, I was constantly just running, in corporate, that, I was talking to somebody earlier today that it was more about, just being able to take a breath and just to allow the natural sort of flow of the day to sort of unfold. And that took a little while to sort of get used to as well.
Yeah, once you were working by yourself.
Yeah. That I didn't have to constantly be, on edge every single day going, oh my God, I've got to go to this meeting, I've got to prep for this meeting, I've got to do all this, but just to allow sort of, the ease of it to flow into it. But then just, I love it how you said, you follow, your soul and your passion as well, because when those two marry up, it actually takes that pressure off you because you're literally following your soul's journey. And when you do that, it makes things so much more easier to sort of do, and the decisions that you make every day are on that sort of soul purpose that you have in life.
Yeah, so true. So I think one thing, like when I went through my relationship healing, I actually had the space and the time to be able to really dedicate to healing on that, for one, because I wasn't trapped into the 9 to 5 routine. And then I think in that healing space, I became really in touch with my heart and my intuition. So I got out of my head, which I used to always be stuck up in there, especially being kind of corporate and accounting. It's very kind of logic, problem solving, numbers driven, all up in the head. So I spent my life up there. And once I was able to drop down into my heart and intuition and kind of follow those little whispers, it did lead me on this journey. And now I'm probably working, like I'm still teaching Pilates, and that's kind of nights and weekends and stuff. And I have the time during the day to work on my business. So really, I'm probably working like 50, 60-hour weeks, but to me, it doesn't actually feel like work. Like I still feel like I'm taking care of myself. I've got my self-care routine. I get up and I have the space to meditate and exercise every morning. So yeah, it does not feel like work. It just is a flow. It's just an ease and kind of natural rhythm that I've tapped into. Yeah.
Was there something in particular that, that stuck with you, like coming from corporate? So for example, with me, that it was very structured throughout the day. You got to work at a certain time. Generally meetings would start, anywhere between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, and they could run all day, and you would have, back to back and all of that. But you just knew that you were constantly going to be busy that day. And then when I got home, I found that I couldn't switch off from the corporate mode because I was always running, around trying to figure out, okay, well, I've got to respond to this email, or I've got to book this meeting, or I've got to book this room, or follow up on this. So do you find that if there's something that has sort of stuck with you that, you sort of gone, it took you a while to sort of let go as such? Like mine was the structure, like having no structure in a day was probably one of the biggest things that I needed to sort of learn. Was there something that sort of stuck with you that you sort of go, oh, it took me a while to sort of let that go and overcome, whatever it was?
Yeah, I think, at first I struggled, like working from home. I think I liked having the people and that social aspect of working in the office, and that's something I really missed. So I used to take myself out to cafes and kind of sit in the hustle and bustle of a cafe to do work when I first started. Now I've created a beautiful home office space, and I can quite easily work from home and be productive now. So that was just a transition for me. And there are options, like there's a lot of co-working spaces and stuff available now, which when like 5 years ago, there weren't that many around of those. I think looking back on when I was working in corporate, so something I've learned about myself is that I'm quite empathetic. And so I really absorb the energies of other people. And so kind of my take on what I was feeling when I worked in corporate, because everyone always complains about their job and everyone's always complaining about the boss and this, that and the other. Everyone's stressed about deadlines. And I think I just absorbed everyone's stress onto me. And I think that's why I always felt quite heavy. I think learning ways to not do that and kind of being in my own space really opened up and kind of let a lot of that heavy energy go.
You touched on such a really interesting point, because I think that, when people are at that sort of stage and they realize that, maybe it's not the corporate world, maybe it could just be that they're not in the right job, for example, but the energies of everybody else around it really plays a big impact on it. And that, when you're starting to, I guess, be more positive in that, it can actually be quite confronting when you're in an office space where people are unhappy. And you find out, and you're actually the abnormal one, even though like you're happy and you should be, on cloud nine. But then when you start to sort of, transform and, start to sort of transition either out of corporate or into a different role, or even start, working more on yourself, that it is quite hard. What would you say that, people could do, or what you found is one of the biggest things that you can actually apply now in your everyday life to be able to sort of separate that energy? Or, sometimes I call it, you have to distance yourself from the I call them the toxic energy vampires.
The vampires,
they suck the energy out of you. But what would be something that you could recommend for somebody that are in that sort of similar situation?
I think the first thing would be to recognize that you are empathetic and take on other people's energies. I think when I was working corporate, I did not realize that about myself. Like I knew there was something a bit different about me, but I kind of never really could pinpoint what it was. It really all comes down to setting boundaries. So first you need to be conscious of that you do take on other people's energies, and then you can work towards creating boundaries that are quite healthy and really looking after yourself. So whether that is distancing yourself from people that you know to be toxic, certain situations where you can't distance yourself, for example, if it's a boss or a parent or another family member. And this is something I think is a gradual thing that you learn and get better at over time. But I think there are meditations that you can do essentially that create like an energetic boundary around yourself, like a shield of light that basically repels any kind of negative energy but maintains your positive energy. There are things you can do as well, like getting out in nature, walking barefoot on the earth, like on the sand or on the grass. So really grounding your energy. You can actually pull quite a lot of energy from the earth to help shake off all those kind of toxic negative energies that you might have picked up. So yeah, and then things like having a bath with magnesium salts in it is a really good way to detox yourself as well from other people's energies.
Yeah. I think it's
so
really
self-care and boundaries.
Yeah, I think boundaries, self-care, and I think also just to have, like, follow your vision of where you see you want to go, and not let other people sort of stray you in that area, because it is very easily to get led, and to sort of, go down different pathways in that. But I really love the fact that, you talked about grounding, because I remember that there would be days where I'm like, oh my God, I haven't even left the office. Like, I haven't even gone out just to even, get some fresh air, and just actually stepping out and getting some fresh air, take your shoes off, and
makes a difference.
It makes a big difference, that you can really recharge yourself throughout the day. So I think that one of the biggest things, like people who are, in that situation right now, that there are simple steps that you can put into place that, doesn't cost anything, because, we've got Mother Nature and it's all completely free for us to utilize, that you can actually put these sort of daily practices in place. And the more you do it, the more you get better at it as well. And it make that transition a lot easier as well. But it keeps your sanity throughout the day, which is quite important. So what do you think, that, from your journey of obviously leaving the corporate world, is there something that you would say to somebody now that if they're in that sort of transition phase, that they know that they're not being fulfilled in their job, they know that there's something more out there for them, but they're just not sure what to do? You think, like you said before, that you thought, I'm a bit different, you knew there was something, but how could they really start to sort of, dive a little bit deeper and to really think, is actually leaving the corporate world the right pathway for me, so that they can start expanding on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So two things that I'd like to talk about in relation to that, and I love this question. I think one of the biggest things that I felt, and I've definitely seen it in other friends and stuff as well, is that security you get from the salary, the regular salary coming in. And that can be a really hard thing to give up. So I think a lot of people, and I certainly did this for a long time, I think as a human, a lot of us, or many of us, have a real deep desire for freedom. I think that's a real core kind of human desire. And I think people kind of think freedom and security don't go together. You either have the secure corporate job, the regular salary coming in, but you sacrifice a bit of freedom, or you go for freedom and people kind of think like traveling the world and not having a job, but then you're not earning money. So I kind of would like people to consider a different angle on that, and kind of think that you can have both security and freedom. So I think when you're following your heart's whispers and your soul's desire, if you kind of do tune in and decide to listen to that, as you're going, you feel so free. Like you can feel like your soul doing little happy dances inside and finally going, "Whoo, she's on it, she's doing it finally, yay." And I think that is complete freedom when you're living how your soul truly desires to live. And if you're brave enough to take that step, I think the universe delivers and security naturally follows. But you do have to kind of give up the false sense of security of that regular salary to get there. So I think as you do follow your heart's whispers and your soul's purpose, you kind of tap into the natural flow of abundance of the universe, and like clients' money will just start to come in, and you will have that kind of financial security as well as the freedom. So that's one thing I think, is to try and jump through that, get to the other side of that sense of security that you get from the corporate world, and kind of start to believe that you can get that elsewhere. And then the second thing is to date your purpose. So I think a lot of people get really hung up on, oh, I don't know what my life's purpose is, so I'll just stay where I am. They kind of bit confused or a bit unsure. But I think if you just kind of, there will be something that you're passionate about, or that you know that you love doing, or that lights you up, where you get into a natural flow. And I would kind of just start there and take that first little step. Just try something on the side and see if that works for you, see if you like it. If it doesn't, you never know where that step will lead you to. Like, the path and the steps kind of just start to appear as you take action and move along the path. And you don't have to be like, so for instance, me stepping into Pilates, I kind of knew that wasn't my end game, but it was a great first step, and it opened up a whole new world of health and movement, and you meet different people, and it kind of, led me down the path that I'm on. I kind of would never have got there if I didn't take that step. I'd still be stuck in the corporate world. So just to date your purpose, try different things. So you're never going to know unless you dabble in it and give it a go, get to know it.
Yeah. And, I love how you say date your purpose, because the fact is that it is like a relationship, because you are finding out what is actually going to make yourself happy. So you date yourself, you date what you want to do, and just experience so many more different things. And it's okay to sort of jump and change and to twist it around a little bit, because not one thing fits everybody. So we need to just remember that it's okay to be uniquely different. And what works for you. I am not a numbers person, so I just like cringe at the fact of doing numbers. But I can see how much you love doing that. So what would work for me is not necessarily going to work for somebody else. But just follow your soul purpose, and just do it before you make that absolute commitment with it. And when you talked about abundance before, the biggest thing that came to me when I started going into the spirituality and the woo-woo sort of stuff, and I heard the word abundance, I think we also need to look at it in multiple different ways. It's not just the financial abundance that comes into your life.
So true.
So much more that you get out of it, that you get so much love and fulfillment, and that's abundance as well. And when you're filling everything up, everything gets rewarded to you, and you meet different people, and you start finding a tribe, and the abundance just is everywhere. And then you're sort of like going, oh my God, look what's coming my way, lots coming my way. So I think a lot of people need to remember that abundance is not just the financial reward. It is also the emotional, the spiritual, the soul, heart, everything that comes your way is going to fill up your cup, so that you are fulfilling your soul purpose. I've been talking a lot with a spirituality coach about, your soul contract, and, what you're here and sort of destined to do. And when you do that, your soul is lit up, but you're rewarded in so many different ways as well.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, it's, I was going to say something then, it just completely blanked out. um, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, when you were talking about dating, your purpose being like a relationship. And I think something important to remember as well with that kind of security where you're attached to a corporate job because it feels secure. It's similar to relationships where you can attach yourself to a partner because it feels secure. You're always looking outside of yourself for that safety and security. It's kind of something we learned as little kids because we did have to find that safety and security from outside. We couldn't look after ourselves at the time, so we relied on other people. But I think part of a self-love journey is really going within and giving your inner child exactly what it needs. So you give yourself the safety and the security and the love. And then when you feel safe and secure within yourself, I think it becomes easier to let go of the external attachments, whether it be a relationship that's potentially toxic or not, not great for you, or a job as well that's kind of not your soul's purpose, not lighting you up. It makes it easier to let go of it because you actually feel safe and secure within, if that makes sense.
No, It makes perfect sense because I think I like during my journey of being obviously in the corporate and I got sick and needing to leave, but I was also in a very toxic relationship too. So once I sort of left one, I started to see different things, like different filters started to come off. And then I realized, okay, well, for 8 years, I've been in a toxic relationship and not really noticing it because I've been so focused on climbing the corporate ladder and, doing what I thought was right. But then as you left, all these other sort of layers, and I call them masks and labels, like started to come off. And you really start to see that, what is right for you, what you need to sort of let go of, and start filling your cup up and start I talk to my clients a lot about it's a water tank, and mine was rusted out so much that it didn't matter how much like filler that I had, like there was still leaks and all of that. But as I started to sort of repair it, then I was able then to really look after myself and really start to nourish my soul, in a holistic sort of a way as well. It was making sure I looked after me, my health perspective, making sure I was eating right, but also looking at the different people that were coming into my life as well.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I love that analogy of the water tank, actually. I kind of talk about a teacup that has like your grandma's old teacup with little cracks around the side. But similar.
Yeah. And I think if we can sort of, see ourselves in different ways, because we're always, we put ourselves last a lot of the time. And I think, when we start to realize that we are these sort of empathetic type of people, because, we love helping and serving people. And a lot of people who are going to be, watching this will probably really relate, going, oh, that's why I feel this way, or this is why I love helping people, or you're always the first person that your friends and family come to, but just to remember that having those boundaries, having, your values and all that sort of stuff, it all plays such an important part for you then to be able to put yourself first, but also then to follow your passion and to know whether or not you need to leave corporate, or whether you need to, go down a different sort of pathway. It could be just the wrong department that you're in, it doesn't sometimes need to be such a huge sort of transition of completely leaving corporate, but it just you can start to reassess where you're at, and you start getting stronger within yourself to be able to make those really informed decisions.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, part of the journey, and when you start to listen to what's inside, A lot of the, I guess, kind of social constructs fall away. So you kind of move to a point where you're kind of sitting on the outside of this social construct that society kind of dictates how things should be done. And you can kind of look at it from a different perspective and be like, oh, actually, no, I don't want to play in that ball game. And there's so many possibilities of things that you can do outside of that. And there are so many people that are doing it. But when you're in it, it's kind of, you feel that's just how things should be done because you've grown up that way. And that could be, you know, the good high paying job, the house with the white picket fence, you know, the 2.5 kids, the whole bit, all that stuff. But yeah, it doesn't have to be like that. And you're certainly no less successful if you don't have those things. I think you can beat yourself up when you don't have them as well, which kind of, just it's a bit of a journey on learning that and letting it go.
Absolutely.
Finding your own path.
Yeah, and I think to measure what success really means to you. So if it is that paying job and, you know, that sort of life, then that is fantastic. But if success means that you are living, you know, life on your terms and, you know, following what lights you up, then that's success as well. It does not necessarily have to be financial success. It doesn't have to mean that you've got this job title. You know, it doesn't mean that you're married. It doesn't mean you've got children. Like there's so many different things, but you define what success is yourself. What success means to me is going to be different to every other single person in the world. So it's what you want to measure it from.
Yeah. And I think I tried that on for size for a long time, like that idea of success of, you know, having and climbing the corporate ladder and stuff. But, you know, ultimately that didn't make me happy and I felt like my soul was being crushed. So, you know, it became a journey of kind of unraveling that and learning what it was that my soul wanted and having the courage to follow that, I think, and let the other stuff go. Yeah.
I think once you make a decision and you do take that courage, make a commitment to yourself, that is when everything starts to sort of fall into place. And it's just you saying that I am worthy enough and that you deserve to have everything that your heart desires.
That's so true. That's exactly what it comes down to, that you're worthy. Yeah.
Exactly. So what would be one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that is watching right now and, you know, as we've said, like they're sort of, you know, indecisive of what to do, you know, is there, do they need to have a plan? Do they just take the leap of faith within themselves? What would you suggest for somebody to do?
I mean, I love learning, and for me, getting in and doing courses was a great way to start dating my purpose. So you can study the thing that you're interested in and see if it is really something that you love, or you might end up deciding, no, that's not really it for me. So I think doing a course on the side is a great way you can kind of keep your job and your income for the time being and start dabbling and dating your purpose. And then I think having that transition period and being okay with it. So once you do kind of figure out, okay, I want to go off and do this, like going from A to B is such a daunting task. So being okay with that transition. So start doing it on the side, start earning a little bit of money from doing that. And then you kind of build up the courage over time to take the leap, and kind of, I guess, reframe it. So looking at the salary that you are earning as like bankrolling your purpose in a way. So once you start dating it and dabbling and transitioning, you kind of, like, I was in a point where I was like, oh, I just want to get out, but kind of being patient and just reframing it like that, looking at it as your fund manager for what you really want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it has been such an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I would love to have you come back and we can really, take it to the next level to really, help people who are thinking of leaving the corporate and sort of, give them some tools and strategies and that as well. But thank you so much for your time today. And, for everyone who is watching today, I've got all the details, how you can get in touch with Angela below. So make sure you reach out. And I want to thank everyone who's come on and watched today. And if you have any questions or anything like that, please reach out. I'll have all the contact details below. But thank you again, Angela, for joining us today. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Yep, my pleasure's all mine. It was really fun chatting, and I hope that anyone listening today that's inspired to start dating their purpose, I say go for it.
Absolutely. And I absolutely love that term. So yes. So thank you again. And thank you everyone for watching the Corporate Escapists TV show. My name is Christine Innes and I am your host and producer. I can't even talk properly now. And I am a transition and lifestyle coach. So love and light to you all. And I'll be back next week with another episode.